Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, diet trends come and go, some harmless, others extremely dangerous. In a tragic incident, an 18-year-old girl from Kerala, identified as Srinanda from Kannur, succumbed to complications caused by what her doctor claims anorexia after reportedly following an extreme weight loss diet based on YouTube advice. In fact, the doctor, while speaking to Mirror Now, has said, and will be joining us shortly, that she was even fat shamed. And it was after she was fat shamed that she resorted to the social media to try and understand different diets. Srinanda had been battling what the doctor claims is eating disorder anorexia for nearly 6 months, during which she drastically reduced her food intake, often surviving only on hot water. Despite her family's concerns, she hid her condition until her health deteriorated severely. Her family took her to Kozhikode Medical College, where doctors advised proper nutrition and psychiatric support. However, the condition worsened, leading to a critical drop in blood sugar and breathing issues. She was later admitted to Thalassery Cooperative Hospital, where doctors found she weighed just 24 kgs and was already bedridden. This heartbreaking case highlights several aspects, but most importantly, it also just brings to the fore the challenge that teenagers and many others really face even in today's India, from body shaming, fat shaming, to the various choices one has to make in terms of diet, to even possibly the stigma to reach out to a psychologist. Joining me right now is Dr. Nagesh Manohar Prabhu, who's a physician at the Thalassery Cooperative Hospital, is also the doctor who treated this young 18-year-old. I'm also being joined by Dr. Shikha Sharma, who's a senior nutritionist. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. Well, Dr. Nagesh, first question to you. It's a very unfortunate case. It's such a disturbing, unfortunate case that comes to the fore. What can you tell us about this 18-year-old?
So at the time of admission, she was directly admitted to ICU. Okay, because the BP was only systolic BP was only 70. So we did the cause was not known. And when we went into the deep into the history from her parents, the parents told me that actually she was after going to the YouTube, she was restricting herself for taking not taking any food to lose weight. Okay, that was the history which I got. Then, after examination of the patient, we did so many investigations, and it was found that her sugar was only 45 milligram percent, which is hypoglycemia. Her sodium was only around 120, hyponatremia. Potassium was also low, and her oxygen saturation was only 70%. So she was put on bypass ventilation, and after that, the saturation got to around 94, 95%. But again, we inquired about the background, and the father told that after looking at the YouTube, somebody actually teased her that she is fatty. So after that, she going to YouTube, she started reducing her weight by not
Right.
taking food. Then finally, it learned that she never used to eat any food, not only the food, even water. It is at that time that they approached the doctor. This is what and this is the history which we got. But one more history which I can tell you is 3 months before, 2 or 3 months before, one of the ENT consultants of our hospital had seen her for some other reason. At that time itself, that ENT consultant had told their parents that they have to consult a psychiatrist because this is a condition called anorexia nervosa. But being because a teenage girl, if it is being taken to a psychiatrist, it is a taboo in our country. You know it very well. Everyone will label her as a mental disorder. So they didn't go consulted a psychiatrist. They kept it to themselves. Then we tried to revive her. We put her on IV fluids, glucose, then antibiotics, everything. But it's been recovered for some time. But again, it deteriorated because the oxygen level was keeping again going down to around 60%. So that's why we ventilated. We put her on ventilator. Around 3-4 days, she was on ventilator. She was conscious, fully conscious, but unable to talk. So in 3 to 4 days, she was in ventilator, and finally she succumbed to her illness. This is the history which I can tell you.
How unfortunate, doctor. You're also talking about how, the parents, the family was advised to take her to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, but, they were worried about the stigma associated with it. Did the parents try talking to her? Did they try getting help?
Mother try to convince her that she is not very fatty, but her mother tried to convince her to take some food, but she didn't take anything. That's what the mother told me. Even she refused drinking water also. It was at that time they consulted a hospital.
Well, if I can get in Dr. Shikha at this point. Uh, Dr. Shikha, if we can have you at this point, Dr. Shikha, it's extremely worrying. It's extremely concerning. Let's just look at the first red flag. She was fat shamed. Absolutely horrible, unacceptable, but something that happens so very often. She was fat shamed and she went to social media. She went to look at what are the options, and she took some extremely drastic steps of reducing her food to a point where she was barely eating anything, and not even drinking normal water. She would have bare minimal hot water. Dr. Shikha, a huge, huge big red flag. What would you want to say as you hear about this case?
See, the first thing which I would like to say is that it is extremely unfortunate that this young woman has died because of the whole environment, the way it has come up. And one of the things which I would like to clarify over here is this whole concept of low calorie diet is absolutely unscientific and unwarranted, because weight loss
Okay.
has been misunderstood to be eat less, eat low calorie. Whereas what people are actually wanting is fat loss. And for that, you need to eat right, not eat less. But sadly, because the whole messaging is eat less, eat low calorie, intermittent fasting, these youngsters in their heads think eating less is a way to lose weight. Whereas to lose and become healthy fat level, you have to eat right. So eating right is not emphasized, eating less is emphasized. And that is one of the most tragic things, the most unscientific things which is going around in the entire social media. And that's why I would say young people are very, very vulnerable, because they naturally, their self esteem is still developing. Emotionally, they're not strong. So, what they do is at one end, they're getting barraged with this fat shaming. At the other end, they are subjected to even more erroneous, wrong information coming from unqualified people. And this is the tragedy which happens.
And it's not just young people or citizens like us. In fact, we have some graphics on a screen that show about how celebrities have followed fat diets and they've lost. But since you mentioned about this low calorie diet, I want to ask you an important question, because everybody follows low calorie. You said eat less and low calorie is a wrong concept, but eat right and low calorie, is that the right concept?
No, calorie concept is wrong, because the calorie concept is not based on human metabolism. It is
Okay.
based on steam engines. It is based on, if you really go back to the history of how this word came up, it came up because the calorie verse was attached to how steam engines are powered by burning coal, and the calorie concept came from there. Unfortunately, it got pasted into human nutrition, which has nothing to do with calories. Human nutrition is metabolism, where food is actually disassembled and made into its constituent parts of amino acids, of essential fatty acids, of glucose, and then it is restructured into human cells. So if one has to lose excessive fat, I'm not saying fat because some fat is very important, excessive fat, the person has to be trained to eat right. Now the problem is, we have a lot of patients over the years. 25 years we only deal with obesity, and we struggle to teach people that please stop counting calories, please start eating right. Because what people do is zero sugar beverages, sugar free chocolates, low sugar this, low calorie this. Now what they are actually focusing on is the wrong benchmark. What they have to focus on is, how do I eat right? How do I improve my metabolism? How do I get my liver to perform better? And that happens when you're eating all the foods which are healthy for you. So, in today's obesogenic environment, I'll tell you what these teenagers do. They want to eat that pizza, they want to eat that burger, they want to eat that chocolate, and they want to eat all the processed food. So, what they do is they eat that and they eat nothing else. So they're counting that, okay, I've eaten this. Now my quota is over. Now I won't eat food. So what is happening is malnutrition. So malnutrition means bad nutrition. So their skin is bad, their hair is falling,
No,
their
it's such an important point.
yes.
Such an important point. While you're talking about malnutrition, let's just very quickly get in Dr. Nagesh. Dr. Nagesh, in this particular young teenager's case, how long did she not eat food for?
3 months. It's a 3 months. It's not a sudden one fine day to gradually reduce and reduce. Because she used to take good amount of food, then she reduced it further like that. And finally, when it became zero, they proceeded on.
Doctor, now anorexia, you may say, is an extreme case. But in your practice, are you seeing more instances of people, say following diets, fat diets, whatever name you want to give? Are there concerns that are coming before you? You are practicing in Kannur. Do you see instances like this coming before you more?
Yes, this trend is there now. This trend is there even in the educated, allied group, even uneducated group also, because everybody is concerned about their weight. Everybody wants to reduce their weight, but not to this extent. They reduce their weight. I have seen people whose weight was around 80 kg coming down to around 55 to 60, but not below this much. This lady was hardly, you can buy. We didn't check her actually. In appearance, it looks though as it is. Her weight is only 20 to 25 kg. That's all. Because only it's skin covering the bones. It's just like that. There is no muscle mass anywhere. The eyes were sunken and you could hold her skin. No muscles at all.
Dr. Shekhar, how unfortunate, Dr. Shekhar, just skin and bones.
Yes, in fact, here I want to come to the point what the doctor said. This is exactly what happens. When people do a low calorie diet, they first lose muscle, precious muscle, which is actually the place where metabolism boosting is happening. So anybody who is losing quick weight loss, they are not losing fat directly, they are losing muscle. And once the muscle loss happens, what happens? Their metabolism comes down, they're more prone to obesity. Not only that, their insulin, their hormones start getting imbalanced, and slowly they go into the depressive phase, because muscle is not just fibers. Muscle is also connected with our own metabolism. So most people who are doing crash dieting are actually only losing muscle mass. And if you see the sagginess which comes, the bad posture which eventually happens because the muscles are not they are not balancing the whole skeletal structure, is because crash diets or low calorie diets will first cause muscle loss and then gradually they'll go to the fat. But eating the right kind of foods will remove fat first and not precious muscle. And that is a whole tragedy, that people do not understand the whole fat metabolism by itself. So they think not eating is the way to lose weight.
Okay, so Dr. Shikha, now let me ask you a very simple question. You may say X is right way of doing it, Y is not the right way of doing it. But there are people who will choose the way they want to go about their health journey, their food choices. So whether it be the different kind of diets, we may call it fat diets, we may call it diets whatsoever, whether it be keto, paleo, low carb, local food, whatever the choice. What would you tell people? How should they approach this? How should they approach the point of choice?
So the first thing I would say is that the problem is the rising obesity today is not because people are eating more. They are eating more of chemical foods which have a lot of chemicals, like processed foods, like food which have those artificial colors, artificial flavors. That is number one. Number two, it is very important to know that some of the basic things which ensure that your fat metabolism is healthy is fiber. The fiber content in our diet has gone abysmally low. Like, for example, a bowl of salad is very important for health. Having many fruits along with their fibers is very important for health. The third thing I would say is having normal water and drinking enough water, because water is also, like, our bodies are two-thirds water. I think in this young lady, her water intake also started stopping in the later few days. So water is
That's right.
exceptionally.
That's
So
right.
the two-third of our body is water. So you can't just stop water. I mean, water is very critical. And like I said, that having two bowls of salad, having three fruits a day, and having fibrous foods is the way to lose weight. The way to lose weight is not to eat less. And I think the education, when I meet parents, sadly, I feel even the parents do not understand. They also say, oh, bahut kha raha hai bacha, he's eating too much. Kitna khayega? While the bacha is eating, they're pointing fingers at why are you eating so
Right.
much? So I think we have to educate parents. We have to educate in schools the teachers, because this will become worse. I mean, you are seeing one case here. I have seen so many anorexia patients come, and the moment I tell them that, look, this child needs some counseling. I mean, I very delicately put it, they need a behavioral counselor, but the parents never come back. So this is a real problem. They are all hiding, thinking that it's a food problem. No, it is basically also a behavioral problem, an emotional problem, a psychological problem. And there are a lot of anorexics in our country, but they are hiding because it is something that people don't even want to accept that it's a psychological problem.
And I think there are so many more layers, Dr. Nagesh as well as Dr. Shikha. I mean, look at this young teenager. She even came from a, lower middle class for that family, for that matter. That's what officials have told us. Her parents were daily wages for that matter. So it also transcends the economic barriers. You may say this is, for a particular section of people, but this is clearly a 18-year-old who did exceptionally well in her studies, according to the people we have spoken to, who was extremely bright and promising. But she couldn't, I mean, she was extremely distressed and upset that she was body shamed, she was fat shamed. Just so unfortunate that this has happened. Our prayers for the family at this time. But Dr. Nagesh as well as Dr. Shikha, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for this important conversation.